Okay, we will talk today about Primavera P6 import and export. What you will learn today, I will show you how you can use the delimited function inside Excel and treat the consecutive delimiters. Configure your data using fixed width feature inside Excel. Import and export the scheduled data like a pro without any errors. Become more efficient and impress your team with your skills. Configure your data in a way that Primavera can listen and talk to. Why do we need to do the import and export? Because sometimes you want to review schedule changes and verify the associated impact. Identify contractors' manipulations if you are working with consultants. So maybe you wanna see the impact of contractors. It changes, and I have done something on purpose, and I'm gonna show you at the end because I wanna show you how we can use that in real life and how we can put our knowledge into practice. You can use it in daily analysis because CPM is extremely sensitive for changes. You can review contractors' claim submissions. Some daily analysis methods, such as MIP 3.4 dynamic split, is mainly based on bifurcation, which I'm going to explain today. Okay, so we will talk about the Primavera P6 import and export, and many people have confusion about this area. And you probably did try to do that in the past, but it did not work for you because you do not configure the data properly. Some people just export the data into Excel and import it right away, but there is a trick and we will talk about it. Here is what I have done here. It's a simple example, but the project is huge enough to make it practical. I did not want to import and export a couple of activities because it will not probably be the case for you, because if that's the case, you will not need to do import and export. You're going to just update that manually. But if you have 20,000 activities, you need to master the import and export. I have two Primavera files right now. In my project, I have week 28. This is my most recent schedule update, and it's week number 28. Data date is 31st of July 2016. I also have another schedule update, week 24. Data date 3rd of July 2016. What I want to do is to extract or export the progress data from week 28 and import it back to week 24. So week 24 file is the receiver. Week 28 is the sender. Of course, it makes sense. So I have progress data in week 24 up to 3rd of July, but I want to import the progress data up to 31st of July. So I'm going to take the progress data from this file and import it to that file. We will do two exports in Excel. So let's go step by step. First of all, I'm going to go to week 24, the receiver, open project, go to file, export, Excel, next, activities, next, choose the project, next. And this is very important. I'm gonna customize a template that has specific columns for the data that I want to export and import. We have the activity ID. It's very, very important because that's how I can map the updates. Activity status, very, very important. And by the way, it makes sense, right? Because I wanna tell Primavera if this activity is non-started, in progress, or completed. If you wanna approve, if I try to remove the activity status from the template, Primavera will not allow me to do that. So it makes sense because if you want to update the activity, you have to mention what the status of that activity. WBS code, very, very important, and I'm going to come back to that later on in a minute. Again, if you want to get rid of it, you can't. it has to be in the file. Activity name, it's optional. I only need activity ID, but I like to keep activity name so I can review what I'm doing. So sometimes I want to review some activities while I am working, and the activity name helps me to do that. So I will know that this activity will belong to floor 5, or that activity will belong to excavation. So it's easy for me to review because I am fully aware of the project progress. We need also actual start, actual finish, remaining duration, and activity percentage complete, right? Then I will go to filter and I want to export all activities. For the receiver, I want to export all activities because I don't know which activities will be updated in future. When I recall the data that I want, I just want to export everything right now. And click OK. Next. Where do you want to export it? I have prepared a special folder for that. So that's my week 24 activities, and open, next, and finish. Then close. Then I'm gonna go to week 28, my most recent schedule update, for example, and I wanna export the actuals as well. So I'm gonna go to File, Export, Excel, Next, Activities, Next, Next. Then for the template, I'm gonna keep everything the same, but I'm gonna apply one filter. I don't want to export all data from week 28. I wanna only export the actuals, which makes sense because I wanna take these actuals and import them back to week 24. So it doesn't make sense to export everything in this case. So I'm gonna apply a filter. Activity status is not equal to non-started. So it's a workaround. It basically says that I want to export everything that is either in progress or completed, but I do not want to apply two filters. So maybe it's a bit smart filter. So everything that is not equal to non-started. I hope it makes sense. Click OK. Next. And I will put it here in the same folder. Open, next, finish, and then close. Right. So I'm gonna go to my Excel sheets. I will open both files. I have here week 28 and week 24. So I week 24, and I want to recall the information from week 28 and incorporate this data here. Okay. So let me start with the activity status. I want to import or recall the activity status of week 28. I'm going to apply VLOOKUP formula. So VLOOKUP, open the dialog. I want to search the other file for this activity ID. I want to tell Excel to search for this activity ID and go to the other file, week 28, and search the whole table. That's the whole table. Then I will fix the range, and I tell Excel that search for this activity ID, and once you find the value, show me the corresponding text here in the second column. So that's my column 1, that's my column 2. So I wanna get column 2 value, okay? Range lookup 0, I want exact match. Range lookup 0 means exact match because that's activity ID. And the schedule has unique activity IDs. So I want range lookup 0. perfect match, and click OK. Not applicable, which means this activity was not a part of the schedule update or progress data that I wanted to import. Remember, when we went to week 28, we exported the actuals only because that's what I need to do. So if it's not applicable, it means that it wasn't a part of the update. So I'm gonna remove it later. And I'm gonna double click so I can apply the formula and export everything. You can see that some activities are completed, some non-started. So that's the first step. I wanna recall information related to activity status. We will do the same process for actual start, actual finish, remaining duration, activity percentage complete. Okay. What 99% of planning engineers do in the import and export, they will take the Excel file of week 28 and import it right away to the XER file of week 24. And they wonder why there are errors and they have a problems with import and export. It's because that we want to import native files. I want to keep the same WBS code. I want to keep the native Excel file of the week 24, which I am trying to import the data into. Okay, let's do actual start, VLOOKUP. Open the formula, search for activity ID in this table. So I'm going to highlight the table again. Then fix the range with F4. If you find the activity ID, I want to bring this value, which is column number 5, range lookup 0. Okay. Of course, there is a shortcut, but I do not want to confuse you. Like basically, I can do it in 5 seconds. I can just copy the formula, adjust the range, but I just want to go slowly so you can follow along. So let's do it again. Search for the activity ID in week 28. Updates. F4, then column 6, range lookup 0. Okay, so before I move any further, what I'm trying to do is that's week 28. I tell Primavera, search for this activity ID, and if you find it, bring me the corresponding values of my choice. If I am updating the activity status, okay, so bring me column number 2 value. That's column number 2. If I am updating the actual start, I tell Excel, if you find the activity ID, bring me the corresponding value located in column number 5, and so on. So that's what I'm doing. Remaining duration, activity ID, I'm gonna search in week 28, F4, remaining duration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0. And last column to be updated. Eight. First step is to remove the not applicable. It is not a part of the update and it should not be imported. So I'm gonna filter everything that is not applicable and delete it. I want to also remove the formulas. I cannot import formulas. So copy, then paste. Copy and paste. So now I removed all formulas. I need to do something about the dates here, because in Excel, you can have a date if the cell is formatted to a date. But if the date is formatted to a number, it will give you like some random numbers like that. So what I want to do is I want to highlight both columns because they are dates, and just have short dates. So that's a number. Okay, perfect. Now it's a date, okay? But I cannot import the data right away in this way because yes, it looks date. You can see a date, but do you see here in the formula bar, I still imported the timing from Primavera. You know, if it's a start, it's gonna show me 8 a.m. If it's a finish, 4 p.m. I do not want to import this information from experience. It can cause problems. It depends on your software configuration, which version you are using. You know, it can return, and it depends on how you set up the default units. And I don't want to import the timing. You can go one by one and remove it, but we know, like in planning, you have to work smart, right? We don't want to do that, especially if you have 20,000 activities. Then what I'm explaining right now is useless because we want to master the process, become more efficient, and going over 20,000 activities and manually removing the timing is not efficient, right? I'm gonna add a new column to the right of both columns. Okay, so I have now a blank column at the right hand side of each column. I will highlight the first column, go to data, then text to column. I will choose fixed width, then next. And Excel is really smart in that I can go to see the whole data. So they can recognize patterns. They can recognize the date pattern and the timing pattern as well, because it seems that it is consistent. They can see patterns, you know, based on the spaces, the type of data, like they can see dates, they can see hour and the minute, they can see the AM and the PM as well. So they can see the patterns. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna split this cell and I wanna have the date alone and the timing in a separate column. So I'm gonna just adjust this range. You know, by the way, you can really customize it if you want. You can have 3 columns. You can separate the values into date, timing, and AM and PM. But I don't want to do that. I just want to separate or split the date and the timing. So that's what I'm gonna do here. So after I do the process, I will see the dates in one column and these values, the timing in another column. Click next. Then the final output should be date, you know, because I can now highlight which column. So that's the column that I'm interested in, you know, the date. So I want to configure it as a date. I'm not interested in that. I'm going to remove it anyway. So let's keep it date for the first column. Then finish. Okay, perfect. You know, so now I can see the dates only, and I'm going to remove that. I will do it again. If you want to follow up one more time, I'm gonna repeat the same process for the finish date. Highlight everything, text to column, fixed width, yes, split the timing, next, first column, I want it to be date, click finish, and remove the timing. One last thing is I want to do final formatting for the date because I want it in a way that aligns with Primavera. Like in Primavera, we have the date, month, and year in this form. So I want to keep it like that. So it will not cause any confusion to Primavera. And by the way, from experience also, if you want to import it that way, I think it will work well, but it depends on which Excel version you are using. And I think both Primavera and Excel have become a lot smarter than before. So I will configure the date custom. I want to have it DD, day, 3Ms, so it can return. I will show you after I do it, then YY. Then okay. So that's exactly what I want to. Day, month. When I add 3Ms, I tell Excel to have this format. The month into 3 digits, basically. And double Ys, so I want to show the year in 2-digit format. One last thing is I wanna format the remaining duration and activity percentage complete into text format. Yes, we know remaining duration is a number, right? We know that. And we know that this is the case in Primavera as well, but it doesn't work like that in Primavera. It's better to recognize text for it. So you will just take the text value and import it to Primavera. And in Primavera, there is another processor there. Okay, so they will take the text value, which I know it's remaining duration. Once it is successfully imported in Primavera, Primavera can use it, for other purposes, like calculate earned value or for reporting purposes or whatever it might be. But you must import the values in a text format. Okay, so you can do it from here, but it is not that effective. You want to really impose the format. I'm gonna highlight this column, the remaining duration, go to data, text to column, and use the delimited function. Click next, then select a comma, select other, and have this symbol similar to apostrophe, but it's not really, because in Excel, when you add this delimiter, it's the Excel's way of saying that this value is a text. I want to also click the treat consecutive delimiters as one text qualifier is the same symbol here. It's like apostrophe. If you want to search Google, you can learn more about it. If you want to format a cell into text, you have to use a text qualifier that is similar to the apostrophe. Exactly. Click next. I want to have column data format text, then finish. Okay, that's it. That's all what I need to do. The same for activity percentage complete. It will be saved for me. Perfect. Next, text, and finish. Okay, we know that activity percentage complete. We know that it's a percentage, right? We know that inside Primavera. We know that because we are planning engineers. But again, I want to import the data in a text format to Primavera so they can process the data for me. Right. What else do we need? Remove the filter. It has to be very clean and neat. So I'm gonna remove the filter. If you realize I kept all columns titles the same, this is very, very important. The first row should not change. That's actually my mapping identifier. So in Primavera, when we see the task underscore code, it is actually the activity ID, which we see in the front end. But in the back end, they use different codes, and I have to keep it the same, exactly the same. I will not touch it. Because if you change that, the data in that column will not be imported successfully. So I'm gonna keep everything here for activity status. It is status underscore code. So I'm gonna keep and it has to be the first row, by the way. So they're gonna import the data. They will see first the first row. If it has a description, that aligns with their mapping and schemas, okay, they will be happy about it and import the data for you. I'm gonna keep that as well. I'm gonna keep the sheet user data. Don't delete it. Okay, and that's it. That's everything I want right now. Why do I need to keep the WBS code? It's a part of mandatory updates. Why? Let's go to Primavera for a moment. If you go to WBS, okay, and you can have on top, you can have 1.1, then 1.1.2. You can see it when I double click. But if you see the WBS code, it will always have the XER file ID at the beginning of each WBS code. So it's a 1.1.3. But you have to add the XER code as well, or project name or project ID. So that's why I want to keep it the same. Because if there is something wrong here, or if you did not import the WBS code, when you import it, and basically I want to map the activities into the corresponding WBS. Okay, so it should fall under the right WBS. But if you have a problem with the WBS code column, or you did not import it at all, it will not fall under any WBS. So you're gonna have general here, and you're gonna have all activities imported on the top of general. So the activities will be floating everywhere, and it will not be assigned to any WBS. It's very, very important. That's it. Yeah, that's my week 24. Okay. And I imported the progress update of week 28. So I don't have right now the progress update of week 24 anymore. It's up to week 28. Everything here is related to week 28. So I'm gonna close this Excel file, save it, and let's go to week 24 because that's my receiver. Open project. So let's go to file, import, Excel, file to import, and it shows week 24. Next, activities, next, update to that file. Okay, finish. The import was successful. And all activities are imported under the correct WBS. One last step. I have right now the progress update of week 28, which is 31st of July data date. But the data date did not change yet. So I'm gonna, of course, run the data date to the right data date, the progress update data date. So I'm gonna choose 31st of July because all the progress update here is up to 31st of July. Then click schedule. Okay, so now it changed it. And it's 31st of July. But I have already the schedule update of 31st of July. So why did I do all of that, right? It's because you import the actuals. This process is called the bifurcation. It's an industry term, scheduling term. So that's what I'm gonna do. I wanna split the actual progress from the logic changes. I imported the actuals, but I kept the logic of 3rd of July. So here's something I did on purpose, right? So right now, after I did the import, I show completion date 20th of December. Let's go to schedule update itself, which has all actuals, by the way. The same actuals that I imported. Right, it has 21st of December. It's a different data date. So it's the same project, the same actuals and the progress data, but different finish date. So why? Something happened. Logic changes. Maybe you tried to be a smart and do something in the lags. constraints, you change the durations, whatever it might be. You can right now run schedule comparison or schedule digger between both files. The original schedule update itself and the bifurcated one. This one right now should have a data date 31st of July. You can see it here at the bottom, 31st of July. So it's a schedule twin, but maybe different logic. So we use the process for delay analysis. If you want to do delay analysis, for example, MIP 3.4, dynamic split, you can use it to identify contractors manipulation and evaluate the schedule changes. For example, sometimes when I run the schedule comparison, I can see some changes, but it's really up to me to accept all of it or partially accept it. I'm not saying that you should discard all the changes, but it gives you the possibility of reviewing the changes